Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I have some opening words today. This is something that I actually found. It was a blog post that I think it was UU Planet posted up on Facebook, and it's lovely, and it made me think of today. This is from Aaron Wathen. You cannot volunteer at your own church. In the same way, you cannot babysit your own kid, because the church belongs to you in the same way your family does. It's your own place, your own people. So of course you help take care of it. Of course you do yard work and make coffee and teach the kids and sing in the choir and whatever else it is that you do for the home and the people that you love. I feel a strong nudge to challenge how we talk about and think about the time and energy we spend in ministry. It's important to recognize those gifts for what they are, ministry. And I'm not sure the word volunteer does justice to the depths contained in the work people actually do in their churches. And I just want to share a couple thoughts. Today, you'll be hearing from the Ministerial Search Committee and our reflections on this journey we've been on. And I wanted to take a moment to just acknowledge the immense honor and privilege that it has been to work with this committee. I have been a volunteer forever. I am like a volunteer addict, from the time I started. I discovered when I was in my early 20s, I started doing stuff, and then throughout my kids' life, and just, and I have never worked with people who are so, well, that's not true, I have, but in a way, like where you say, here, I'm gonna get this done, and it gets done, and nobody needs a reminder or a nudge or anything. It's just like magically, the check marks just keep coming along, and their passion for this work and their commitment to this church and our needs, and learning everything we could to represent you well. And so I just want to thank you all so much for nominating these amazing people, and thank you all so much for accepting that call. Yeah. Thanks. I have something to share from the Ministerial Search Committee. It is a joy to announce that we have a candidate. There we go, a joy. And what a process, which you will hear more about. But just wanted to share with you that we are very, very thrilled to present you with a incredibly qualified and delightful candidate that I know you will all come to love as much as we do. And we have some sparkling cider and cookies that we will be sharing after service today. And then we also are going to be putting these back at the back counter afterwards. And this is a lovely, beautiful brochure with all the Candidating Week events that you are invited to attend and what's going on that week, including one that's an RSVP. We need these all filled out. And where do we want them put? There's a basket. Okay, right underneath our section where our big check mark board is. So we have the second to last check mark to put up on the board, which is the successful finding of a candidate.
And what's the last check mark?
The vote is the final check mark. And that is on, what date is that on? April 21st, Easter Sunday. You will be here, and you will vote, and we will celebrate, I am certain. But yes, there's many, many opportunities that we've put together for people to get an opportunity to meet our candidate. As soon as we have done all the proper signing of contracts, we'll actually put together another lovely brochure about our candidate, including a link to her website. And a clue! I was doing so good with my gender-neutral pronouns, and then I messed up. Anyways, so that will be available, so you can watch sermons and read all the great stuff that we got to read, and all that good stuff. But this RSVP, put that in the basket. This is for a wine and cheese reception or dessert, wine and cheese reception that will be at the Rodrigue Molyneux Winery, Estate and Winery. So if you want to attend that, we need to know how many so that we get enough cheese. We don't want anybody to not have cheese. So that is a true and sincere joy. And thank you all for everything that you did to make this possible. So I invite us now to just enter a moment of silence.
Good morning again. And it is a great morning, so this is fine to say it twice. We could do it 3 times even. You know, I had no desire, no idea, no divine omen came my way that being a part of this committee, doing the work with 6 other souls, would make a journey for me. And it was a wonderful journey. This journey deepened my love for our church and our religion. As I read the stories of our ministers that were applying for the position and learned of their journeys, listened to their voices, and heard about their visions, my own vision, my own inner voices became stronger. In September, I was tolerant. I was a pretty good tolerant person. I understood the religious and political views of other people. But in January, I went beyond tolerance. I got to acceptance. I got to a place where I could join those who had a different opinion than my own. I was able to acknowledge that we were all part of the same community. It was incredible. I disagreed with folks, but I got it. I got it in a way that I had never gotten it before. Reflecting on the work that we did, the many learnings we had, the growth in my tolerance, my deepening love for all of us, for our church and our religion, I can honestly say that this was one of the most enlightened experiences of my life. I thank you for having the trust in me and allowing me to be on this committee. Thank you.
We have such a great standing joke with, Karen, she cries like easily. And it's just so sweet. It's wonderful. I know, right? We're like. I'm going to start with a reading from Rebecca Ann Parker, one of our UU theologians. In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction and who with faith rise and lead in freedom with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen of sorrow and outrage, or tenderness and wonder. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, draw water from old wells, and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God, who call on the strength of soul force to heal, transform, and bless life. We are a pretty demanding group as Unitarian Universalists. As you can see in this brief excerpted passage from one of Rebecca Ann Parker's charges, we demand a lot of ourselves. I have to admit, I have struggled with and even kind of poo-pooed, all these lofty expectations, this building a beloved community and speaking with a prophetic voice and creating a life-saving faith. I've been like, okay, yeah, it's UU language, it's that lingo. My experience on this search team has been nothing short of transformational in this regard. From reading the stories from our ministerial candidates that describe what embodies their ministry and how they've described their own personal call and their hopes and dreams for all of our congregations and our shared faith tradition, I have been moved to see the depth of what it can mean to be a Unitarian Universalist. And I've seen this reflected here in our small but mighty church as well this year. Our strength and resilience in what could have been a mess of a couple of years has been incredibly inspiring to me. And I hope you have been inspired by it as well. I hope you take time to acknowledge yourselves and each other for all the hard, good work, all the ministry you do here with each other and in the world. It has been an honor to serve this church, and I thank you.
Morning, again. So I'm going to start with an excerpt from A Covenant Invites Relationship by Lisa Ward. A covenant is not a definition of a relationship. It is the framework for relating. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured and renewed and affirmed on a regular basis. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. A creed creates an us and them. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasures of shared truth. The courage within this covenant is the acceptance and celebration of life with all of its challenges, pain, ironies, and joys. We know that we are interconnected and that what we do creates ripples of hope or despair, of affirmation or negation. What we do with and for one another is powerful and beyond our imagining. So there are a few items in that reading that really speak to what this work has meant for me. Covenant, trust, and relationship. Over the last 9 months, this team has experienced many joys and challenges. Our coming together and deepening relationship has been very meaningful. Often when something happened in one of our lives, it didn't feel complete until we could come together and share it at our weekly check-ins. My care and affection for these friends who I've had the honor to serve with has become important to me. My love and understanding of our faith, by the way, a word I'm now comfortable using, has also deepened. To covenant together is a formal, solemn, and binding agreement. This opportunity to better understand and know our congregation, to think deeply about what our faith can offer the greater world, and what it really means to live out our principles personally and collectively has been transformational. How beautiful it is that we have found this community that welcomes and honors all people and provides a foundation for our coming together, for our own growth, and for our collective impact in the world. Doing this work on your behalf has been an incredible opportunity for me, and I really thank you for trusting me with it.
So I'm going to go off script for a minute because my mother would be rolling over in her grave if she knew her son was wearing a ball cap in church, much less from the pulpit. And even though my wife has been kind enough not to say anything this morning, I'm sure the thought has crossed her mind that unfortunately everybody knows us and she can't duck the fact that she chose to marry someone who would choose to do this. But when your alma mater makes the Final Four, for the first time since you were a first-year graduate student, us boys ain't going to listen to the women. Clark Kerr, who was a longtime president of the University of California, once observed that university presidents are judged successful if they can deliver athletics to the alumni, parking to the faculty, and sex to the students. So wahoo wah. So moving on from Clark Kerr, I'm going to read an excerpt from C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity. The source material for this book was a series of talks C.S. Lewis gave over the BBC during World War II. Christianity does not want us to reduce by one atom the hatred we feel for cruelty and treachery. We ought to hate them. Not one word of what we have said about them needs to be unsaid. But it does want us to hate them in the same way in which we hate things in ourselves, being sorry that the man should have done such things, and hoping, if it is any way possible, that somehow, sometime, somewhere, he can be cured and made human again. The real test is this. Suppose one reads a story of filthy atrocities in the paper. Then, suppose something turns up suggesting that the story may not quite be true, or not quite so bad as it was made out. Is one's first feeling, thank God, even they aren't quite so bad as that? Or is it a feeling of disappointment and even a determination to cling to the first story for the sheer pleasure of thinking your enemies as bad as possible? If it is the second, then it is, I'm afraid, the first step in a process which, if followed to the end, will make us into devils. My oldest friend grew up UU. He went to Haverford and became a Quaker. And I've teased him over the years about him being the lowest form of religious life, a lapsed UU. But in recent years, I've been in danger of following him. I've always viewed C.S. Lewis's quote through his Christian lens as an affirmation of our first principle of the worth and dignity of every human. Our society today could use a good dose of UU first principle, or C.S. Lewis's Christian cautions. The loudest voices on all sides display an appalling disregard for their opponent's humanity. As long as 20 years ago, I noticed seeds of that trend in our larger society corrupting our UU values, and witnessing that contamination grow had induced in me a crisis of faith. My experience of the past year has done much to repair it. I have come to know all of you, and especially my fellow committee members, much better, and I've seen our principles acted out in small and large ways, seemingly unconsciously. With one exception, all the ministers we spoke deeply with had a stance of curiosity and respect towards differences. Most importantly, the younger ministers, and especially the one we seem poised to call, center their call on the religious experience of you and me being committed to a church and a religion like our church. My optimism and my faith are well on their way to being restored. Thank you.
I have a reading of excerpts from a poem by Leslie Fales, All That We Have Been, All That We Will Become. All that we have been separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers, working up the courage to jump. What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet, our wheels, however we move our bodies across this precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil. May we have courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing. I call my reflection silly bunk bed worries. I lay awake on the bottom berth of the child's bunk bed with a certain feeling of anxiety. It was the first night of our retreat. We had been getting to know each other more deeply and as we explored the challenge we faced. It was late August and there was quite a lot to accomplish in a short time. My worry-worn brain was churning. How am I coming across to the others? Will I find my niche with this group? Are these busy people as committed as I am to this challenge? Will I disturb my roommates in the middle of the night getting out of this bunk bed to answer nature's call? The next day, everyone jumped into the task, and with the help of our skilled UUA guide, we agreed to the basic roles we would each serve. We landed as an incredible team, working diligently to accomplish the many steps to bring us to this moment. It has been a joy to be part of this group of talented, vibrant, and thoughtful UUs, and gratifying to get to know our congregation and our congregation's hopes for the future. It has been interesting to read packets from ministerial candidates and fun to have conversations and visits with some of them during the interview process. As a result of my experience, I feel inspired and richer in spirit. I see new horizons for us all as we proceed together through the next phase of this process and beyond. I'm excited about our candidate. May we have courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing.
I did not grow up a UU. I became one in my junior year of high school when I became very uncomfortable reciting the Apostles' Creed every Sunday. My mother was liberal enough to suggest I find a church I could be comfortable in. My history with UUCIL goes back to 1963, when I first attended the Unitarian Fellowship. I was looking for a church for my children to learn about Christianity. I guess I was asked to be on this committee because of my long history with the church. It might also have something to do with my chairing, caring, and concerns. Committee members seem to represent many other aspects of the church. By being on the search committee, I got to know many people I had not known very well before.
When Stephanie first sent out the order of service and I saw my name last, I thought, man. So I thought, I got to have something really good to say. And then we had a meeting this morning, and it turns out it was just alphabetical. So I'm feeling a lot less pressure right now. This is an excerpt from Marianne Williamson's book. She is a spiritual development writer, contemporary author. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. When you're on the Ministerial Search Committee, you're afforded quite a view of Unitarian Universalism across the country as you interview and read materials from candidates practicing in churches far and wide. You're also given a glimpse of the preciousness of your own church community with all its beauty and blemishes. It is a macro and micro view of our faith that almost wills you into forming a perspective on your own religious community. And you ask yourself, how do we fit in this UU faith movement? How do we fit into our surrounding community? How do we fit into the scary and beautiful world around us? So here's my perspective on us at this point in time. And to lend my perspective a little weight, I'll just remind you, this is my second time around on the search committee. I've come to the conclusion that the Unitarian Universalist Church in Livermore is pregnant with possibility. We are expecting, we are cocooning excitement, fear, hope, loving kindness that I believe is growing in us to make manifest in this world. I read and listened deeply to your comments about growth. And I know that many of us worry about the financial burdens and bringing in new membership. However, I sense that this apprehensive urgency of growth is more about how we will make manifest our pregnant possibilities in this world than it is about how growth will meet our own needs. So I leave you with this thought. I believe that serving the world and our community and the growth of our precious church can happen interactively, one feeding the other. Of course, one must put some effort into nurturing what is birthed, and we are calling a midwife to help us. But that said, I am glad, I am proud, I am privileged to be in this process of creation with you all. Thank you for the opportunity to serve on this committee, but most of all, thank you for being a community that values open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. So if the ushers